Welcome to Business Problem Solvers Podcast, where legal insight meets entrepreneurial innovation. Are you a startup founder navigating the complex legal landscape of entrepreneurship? Are you seeking practical advice, actionable strategies, and expert guidance to propel your business forward? Look no further. Eric Alspaugh is a seasoned attorney based in the vibrant startup hub of California, and he's thrilled to be your host on this exciting journey. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the intersection of law and business, bringing you insightful interviews with a diverse range of industry experts, thought leaders, and successful entrepreneurs. From intellectual property and contract law to corporate governance and regulatory compliance, we'll cover the essential legal topics that every startup needs to know. Our guests will share their wisdom, experience, and practical tips to help you navigate legal challenges, seize opportunities, and build a thriving business in today's dynamic marketplace. So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a budding startup founder, or simply curious about the intersection of law and business, join Eric on Business Problem Solvers Podcast as we explore the legal insights and entrepreneurial inspiration that will fuel your journey to success.
Hey, Mark. Welcome to the Business Problem Solvers Podcast. Mark Monin, it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm looking forward to our discussion today. I want everybody to know that you have fantastic interests and have been a good friend for more than 10 years of mine. I enjoy spending time with you at different networking events, cooking events, and I'm looking forward to getting a plane ride with you as a pilot. So welcome to the show, and I'm interested in getting your perspective on just the business and financial environment right now, and to the extent you can opine on the medical device industry and your experience. I want to hear your thoughts.
Good. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. And I too, you've been a great friend, so thank you for everything. Right now, as we see it, it's been an interesting period of time in the medical device area because of the fact that, the pharmaceutical stocks have been kind of weak. People have been worried that there might be additional regulation or, additional pressure on profits. So it's been an interesting time, but I do think that it's, there's some real opportunities out there right now.
All right, great. Do you have any, inside stock tips, or we didn't really have an opportunity to discuss all the topics that we could discuss today, but some of the financial experience that you have as a financial advisor and expert, are there some things that some of our entrepreneurs should be looking for?
Well, I've got a rounded education. I started in aeronautical engineering at the University of Buffalo. I was on a wrestling scholarship, and then the bank paid for anything finance. And as a result, I got a finance degree, and then Morgan Stanley sent me to Pepperdine MBA and also work. So as a result, got a good background in education. And one of the things that we were going to talk about is networking.
Awesome. I remember that now. So in Orange County, I'm really tied in with Device Alliance and formerly with other very good networking groups, Ocean, Octane. I know that there's a lot of these groups out there. Can you tell us about some of the groups that you're involved with that might be beneficial for entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I was very active with Octane, especially early on. I think it's important when you're networking that if you can get involved in a group early on, that's a big help.
Okay.
Because you get in as the solid first people. So anytime there's a networking opportunity that's early, grab that. And I usually tell people to give it 2 years. A lot of people after a couple of months, they'll or a couple meetings, they'll give up if they don't have a ton of out of it. And but if you look long term for it, then you come across as a person that's willing to give to the organization and not just take. And I have found that, 3/4 of a year down the road, that's when the leads start coming in. And most people have given up on the organization well in advance of that. So
Wow.
one of my
Yeah.
biggest recommendations is give it time when you go into it. Give it time. And I also feel that being involved in at least 4 different groups, most meetings are once a month. And if you're with 4 different groups, that's one meeting a week, which won't overtax you. And that way, if one area is working and another one isn't, you still have a lot of leads and contacts coming in. So I
That's
highly,
that's that's
highly
great advice. In terms of, so yeah, I totally appreciate what you're saying, and I hope that our young entrepreneurs really get that nugget, which is it takes time showing up at events repeatedly. You're not going to show up and be the smoothest talking salesperson in the room and expect to bring business home that night. It just does not work that way in the real world. And so a time commitment of probably realistically a year uh, without any real prospect is reasonable. How do you, and I appreciate what you're saying about diversifying into 4 groups so that you have opportunities once a week. What kind of fields would you recommend for folks that are medical device entrepreneurs? What kind of diversification should they consider for networking events?
Basically, what I found is each group has its own complexion, and the ones that you're the most comfortable with are the ones that you'll prosper at. With that, Octane got so big that it wasn't as helpful to me for the new business because they were doing mega things. Not that it's not, it's a great organization, but sometimes these groups grow and it's not the parameters that you're looking for. If you're looking to bring in or be involved with new entrepreneurs, then each group kind of has its maturity level. Also, what I found is working with entrepreneurs. A lot of them will like to spend a lot of the money they raise and on equipment because they're many times engineering backgrounds. And if you can find ways to do your R&D and not have to spend tons and tons of money on the equipment, then you don't dilute the shareholders because sometimes people spend so much money on R&D and go through so many raises that they've got way too many shares. So it's very important that you don't overburden the company with an extraordinary number of shares.
That's that's good information. I appreciate that, Mark. I wanted to get into those investor level questions and help entrepreneurs understand when they're asking questions and looking for financing and funding, what those types of funds are and what kind of educational things. But let me put that on the back burner and ask you one more question about networking in Orange County, LA, in California. Do you have any recommendations or thoughts on entrepreneurs participating in these organizations as members, or participating and volunteering time?
Yeah, if you go on their board and get involved in the group, to the rest of the participants, that looks very good, and you're at a different level. So I would highly, if you're going to be there and participate and be spending time, if you can be an active member on the board or whatnot, you'll be looked at by them at a way different level. So I would highly advise people getting active, being involved, adding to the organization, because that really comes across as somebody that's contributing and not just taking.
I love that concept of service and volunteering. And I find that in that role, you have an icebreaker automatically of a reason to be at an event, and you don't have some awkward obligation to say, "Oh, I'm here just trying to help you out," in a disingenuous manner. That if you are serving and participating, there's a good reason for you to be there already. So
Now
go
there's
ahead.
there's other groups that I would highly consider that may not be like the best would be a medical device group, but I've had very good luck at Chamber of Commerce's because medical, like out here in Lake Forest, there's so many medical device companies, and the chamber out here is very active with the medical device companies. And I've gotten tremendous leads by being active in the chamber too. So chambers, Irvine Chamber is strong, Newport Beach is strong, South Orange County is strong, Mission Viejo is strong. So don't forget about the Chamber of Commerce's because, yeah, there are restaurants and a lot of different businesses, but some of those people refer people to you too. And then many people that attend that are active in technology.
Great. A quick follow-up. What do you think is the level of professional expertise or experience that somebody ought to have before volunteering or attempting to volunteer to get onto a board? I have my own opinion about small nonprofits where we're able to take advantage of any warm body that wants to volunteer. But do you have an opinion or some encouragement for entrepreneurs that are thinking about getting onto a board?
Yeah, I think it's important that we all have to put in a little time before getting to the board level.
Okay.
So putting in time, doing the hard drag out work, and is important because then that means that you're willing to contribute. And some people go right to the top of the board because of their reputation or their track record. But if you're just getting started out, just contribute to the organization, and people will give you a crack down the road because you know the members, you know the organization, you've seen what they've done in the past. So just be a little patient when it comes to being on the board or being active. It takes a little time sometimes, but it really pays off in the end.
Great. And for to add on to what you're saying, I think that volunteering on a board of a nonprofit or a professional industry group is valuable for engineers and scientists who might not see behind the scenes how meetings are held, how decisions are made in a matrix management style, or just how other finance and regulations are and compliance are handled from a corporate perspective. And I think that boards have to deal with those issues. So in serving, there will be opportunities to learn if they're paying attention.
Now, another thing, I'm very active with the United Way of Orange County. And I'll tell you, 3/4 of the people or the board there are all high tech. I mean, we're talking, you wouldn't believe some of the people that come to those meetings. Some very top level professors at UCI are very active, and they do a lot of speaking engagements for the United Way because they have things every quarter. So, whether it be a chamber or United Way, you're going to, or something direct in medical device organization, you're going to get exposed to a lot of different opportunities.
Great. And I think that's true with a lot of boards. I'm not sure about all boards, but many boards have very diverse board members that come from different backgrounds and different industries. They're not always in the exact same medical device space. So that's something to be aware of.
Exactly.
Since I do have you and you're my financial expert, I want to ask you to think about how you'd explain to entrepreneurs the various investment stages. And the purpose of giving them some terms of art would be to prepare them and send them in a direction where they can do some of their own research and learning some of the terminology that might be helpful for them in developing their pitches and developing their marketing materials. So specifically, can you talk about the various kind of levels of investment that a CEO would look for in a startup?
So the first thing you want, there's A, B, and C rounds, and then there's venture capital, and then private equity, and then the ultimate is going public. And then
Okay.
after you go public and you trade on an exchange, then you can also do a secondary and raise additional funds by buying stock or issuing shares up and beyond the outstanding shares you have now. So those are the various levels. And, each round, hopefully your valuation is going up, and
Right.
hopefully you're becoming more efficient, and hopefully your revenue and profit numbers are looking good. If you can be somewhat profitable or approaching it, that'll get you a much better valuation than if you're a long way away. Now, things go in crazes. Now, I know I'm not talking about medical devices here, but the most recent craze is artificial intelligence. The craze before that was, mobility and drones. And I can't believe I'm in aviation and a pilot, and I couldn't believe how many companies raised $100 million. So if you're in the right industry at the right time, that can help the process, but none of us can control that. But
Okay.
there are times that you're at the right place at the right time. And when that happens, run with it, because the amount of money you'll raise and, will be a lot larger than, if the market isn't red hot.
Gotcha. So now, my class of listeners are more likely going to be in the earlier stages as startup companies looking to raise money, friends and family, Series A and B rounds. And in the medical device space, we are nowhere near revenue generating at all unless we have some patents and IP that we can license. But we are a pre-revenue company that has a burn rate until we obtain some sort of FDA authorization to sell, whether it's a PMA, a 510K, something like that. So can you help with the terminology and maybe some tips on how to raise money, if you have any, for those very early stage companies?
Okay, again, I know I'm repeating it, but have a solid business plan, have it well thought out. I mean, know your numbers cold.
Okay.
If this, and this happens, where would you be in revenues, and where would you be? Would you be approaching profitability or breaking even? So it's really important. And if you have to, get an MBA student or a friend at school. There's medical people at UCI and there's MBA students at UCI, and get them involved and have them help you. But the putting together a well thought out business strategy is very important, because when you're in the interview, you will be blasted with a lot of questions by people who you're probably the thousandth uh, company they've interviewed in the last 5 years. A lot they don't take, and some they do. So you really have to understand your business plan, your numbers, your profitability, how long it might take, to, get your approvals and progress, and your IP, at the level that makes it more and more valuable.
Okay. Well, what I'm hearing from you, Mark, is you might be able to learn it. You're going to have to learn it, but for getting started, maybe these entrepreneurs and engineers should focus on some team building aspects and just bring in some resources that have financial expertise already.
And when you're early on, being involved in an incubator is amazing, because the incubator will have classes. The incubator will have people with varied industrial experience. And so not only are you going to learn from the other people in the incubator, but you're going to learn from the classes that they put on. But you also have a very inexpensive place to office and whatnot to work out of. So an incubator is, if you can get into one, that can be really helpful in starting your company off without going through a lot of money.
Excellent advice, and that's what we hear frequently, even on this podcast, which only has we're a few episodes in, and at incubators and leveraging those type of resources is an excellent suggestion. Are you involved in any incubators, or do you have any suggestions on that off the top of your head?
Well, there was a clean tech one over at UCI at the old Broadcom offices, and
Okay.
but and a lot of the investment banking groups were active in that.
Okay.
Clean tech is quieted down a little, but I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been over there. I was there when it first started, so I couldn't tell
Sure.
you. I'm sure it is, because it looked every office was filled, but I couldn't tell you. I know there's some incubators up in LA. There's many down here, but I haven't been real active on the incubator side, in the last 2 years since COVID.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of things had really shut down, and I have just recently started participating in networking events in the last 6 months myself. So I have seen people out. Everybody's friendly and happy to be outside meeting again. So now's a good time to dust the shoes off and get out there and start networking.
That's a real important thing, because the enthusiasm that I see at these meetings is the highest I've ever seen, because people haven't
Okay.
been doing it in a while, and they were cooped up during COVID. Now, when I go to one of these meetings, my goal is to try to assess the people that are either like me or have products like what I'm looking at, or very active in the group. But I have a goal of at least 5 people that I want to talk to in that meeting. That's my goal, is at least 5. Now, you don't want to go for 20. I mean, that'd be nice, but if you make the conversation too short, you'll kind of hurt their feelings. So you need to learn the right amount of time and the words to excuse yourself to go on and meet another person.
All right.
And sometimes the person you're really wanting to talk to has just gotten free, and now, you do your best to not look like you're taking off on the person you're talking to currently, but you want to make it a point to get in front of certain people that you feel best fit you.
That's super interesting, just as a person who's comfortable in their own skin and comfortable evaluating the room and being able to speak with people competently. Do you have any thoughts or recommendations for people who are just starting off? I can tell you that personally, I was okay going into a room and introducing myself, but do you have any recommendations for folks that might be a little bit shy or aren't used to speaking and aren't good without some artificial icebreaker?
I'll give you a trick.
Okay.
Always get their card. If
Okay.
you give your card, they won't necessarily call you back. But if you get their card, you have their number, and then you can work and talk to them over time. So I find ways to get their card first, because then I got the
Okay.
number, as opposed to handing my card out. If that's the only way, if
Okay.
they don't have a card and that's the only way, then by God, I'll give them a card. But I want their
Okay.
card because I want that number. And then you put all the numbers in a CRM, contact manager, and then you just drip on them,
Okay.
and have your dialer tell you, hey, I haven't talked to this person in 3 months. My last conversation, I put in some notes. So having a record of what you talked about right at the first meeting makes you
Okay.
look more together and more organized.
Well, you certainly thought about it, and you obviously are willing to put in the effort, and you care a little bit. And I think that's a great way to come across quickly as somebody who's competent and caring. I think that's a good thing. But I have found recently that there's people that don't have business cards based on their age and the lifestyle nowadays. So do you have any tips for those people that are just purely electronic or below
Yeah.
the threshold age?
At the last device meeting, the top guy there gave me his LinkedIn, and I just scanned it, and boy, we were connected like that. So that's another way. It isn't card, but I'm trying to make sure that I've got their information. I'm not relying on them calling me back. I'm going to make sure I do everything that I have their contact information so I can call them.
All right. Well, that's just due diligence and being proactive. And so, as a gentle reminder to our listeners, hey, people, um, no matter how much you like yourself, and think you're likable, that's not going to promote your business. You have to take the initiative and be proactive, and that's excellent advice anytime.
I
So,
have a saying. You never get anything in life. This goes for everything. You never get anything in life unless you ask for it. And when you
okay,
ask for something, people respect that, because if you're in sales, they expect you to ask for the order. They might think they wouldn't think too highly of you if you didn't ask for the order. So never be afraid of asking for the order or test closing, because that's what people expect. They want go-getters. They want people that are going to make things happen. And the only way to make things happen is to ask.
Okay, sound advice there. This was fun, Mark. I really appreciate you giving us some insights on networking and service. And I hope that we can have a follow up conversation. Is there? I'd like to get your last thoughts before I got to wind this up on any educational tips or resources that you'd like to tell people about for starting their business. And then I'd like to give you the floor to tell us where people can get a hold of you and tell us anything that would make our lives easier to get in touch with you.
Now, the Small Business Association, SBA, is a tremendous resource. You might be able to get a loan. You might be able to get help in putting together your business plan. But I've worked with a lot of them. They're really, really good people. Their heart's in the right place. So don't forget about the SBA. They are active, and, you know, really the more opportunities they create, the better it looks for them, and also the better they feel because they're working hard.
I didn't think of that. That's a great tip. And then, so Mark, where can our listeners find you? Where can they get a hold of you?
So I am in Lake Forest, and I'm at One Orchard Road, Suite 130, and that's in Lake Forest, California, 92630. My phone number is 949-939-6612. I'll be happy to help anybody,
Awesome.
And I'd be happy to guide you.
Thanks so much, Mark. Really appreciate your time and looking forward to flying with you soon.
Take care. Thanks for having me on, Eric. Really appreciate it.
All right. God bless.
Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes, where we'll cover topics ranging from business formation and fundraising to contracts and compliance. Subscribe now and never miss an episode of Business Problem Solvers. Business Problem Solvers podcast is proudly brought to you by Eric B. Alspaugh, APC, providing comprehensive legal solutions for startups and entrepreneurs. Visit our website at www.alspaughlaw.com to learn more. Disclaimer: the information provided in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal advice. Consult with a qualified attorney or legal advisor to address your specific legal needs.